Have you ever played something so perfectly assembled that it had to be brilliant, but actually ended up just being kind of boring? Carrion's like that to me. Carrion is a 2D game considered Metroidvania by some, and absolutely not Metroidvania by others, but I can't personally judge as I've never actually played such games myself. Either way, it's 2D, pixely, and involves you moving around a series of tunnels and caves, acquiring abilities that you can use to backtrack and unlock areas you've not had access to before, either to access literally the rest of the story, or just some collectibles and secrets. The art design is absolutely impeccable here. Everything is very neatly put together. You, big lumping meat monster that you are, throbs and writhes and slops around with the full weight of masses of gurgling, screaming bodies that you consume, able to drop and collect biomass like it's a McDonald's breakfast. The object of the game is to escape, but to do that you need to obtain abilities that you can use in different sizes, and to grow to different sizes you need to eat and kill humans, obviously. Some humans are defenseless, some of them have basic pistols, and some of them have electric shields and assault weapons that can burn you down in about 3 seconds. Some are in these crazy bipedal machines that mow you down and you have to rattle their tops off before they shred you. There's even a story, one that's detailed enough to actually be considered a story, but vague enough that it's arguably very open-ended. Throughout the game there are flashback sequences where you follow some suited bloke into the bowels of the earth, where, by my assumptions, he encounters you for the first time, this long-forgotten eldritch horror hibernating deep below the earth's crust. I know he touches you at some point, and later in the game you can do something interesting with the DNA I presume you scrape from him like a Q-tip, but God knows. The game has no dialogue, which keeps shit plenty vague, but we can pretty comfortably assume you got snatched up and buried in some top secret lab somewhere for observation and experimentation, which is probably why you're so furiously angry. That does lead me onto something. See, despite your cosmically deadly nature, and how dangerous the game frames you as, you are very easy to kill. The later levels need to be played with spoonfuls of care, which creates a, and I finally get to use this term in a real context, I'm so excited, ludonarrative dissonance, where the narrative tells us that we are a super scary, dangerous monster that absolutely cannot reach the surface for the sake of humanity, needing to be imprisoned miles below the Earth's crust, away from anyone and everyone, and a gameplay sequence where we die at the merest mention of visiting in-laws. From this, I started to gather from the game that I wasn't playing it properly. Something about it always felt like it was calling me an idiot, but I was never punished enough for being an idiot that I learned or adapted, so I just carried on. Save points are always close by, and I would often brute force my way through rooms, saving after every kill, only to finally enter the room and find an intricate network of vents and objects I was supposed to use to stealthily remove every enemy, and I would be like, damn, I was supposed to use this? God, I'm stupid. Then I'd never learn from it and just do the same thing every time. Every time walking into a room like, oh wow, I am a moron. Every time unthinkingly bruting my way through the next room. Every time tumbling through this desperate, lost, unblinking cycle of madness. As you venture through the story, these routes become less and less tenable anyway. There are 3 sizes your character maybe? Three sizes your character can become, and you gain the ability to be these sizes at certain points in the story. You start as mini, you can be normal size, and then you can be humongous. Each will have entirely different abilities mapped to the controls, which sounds confusing, but weirdly it's fine when you start to know which side you need to be. You're never soft-locked, which I think is a beautiful detail of design. Different forms have different abilities too, so you have to shift mass around and leave it in places and pick it up again between puzzle steps, which is fairly clever and adds depth to all the sequences. I like this mechanic, it felt unique and added complexity. Once you become humongous, moving around is a pain in the arse. Your center of gravity is just that, quite central, and the bigger you are, the more unwieldy it is to move around, which is probably intentional to counter the usefulness of being big, but at that size it takes like 7 attempts just to get into a vent. It just felt like an imbecile. Speaking of, the movement in this game is weird. I thought maybe it's because it's made for PC, but my friend Bluebird played it on PC, and they had even more of a nightmare. You move with the left stick and change directions and aim with the right stick, which sounds very simple, but ends up getting confused in my head. My fingers will do whatever, and sometimes they'll get it right and sometimes they won't. It's one of those moments where you're looking at the screen and wondering why it's not working, and then you look down at your hands and you're not even holding the controller, you're just holding a toaster and standing by the bath, wondering why you can taste blood between your teeth again.